Well, talk about bad timing. Democrats are touting green jobs the very same week we find out that job growth is really stalling. And the same week, new reports show the administration's $1 billion investment in green car batteries isn't creating the jobs promised. Also, Fisker Automotive may not build one hybrid car in the U.S. despite getting nearly $200 million in U.S.-backed loans. Is it time for the government to stop pushing these green job plans? Hi, everybody. I'm David Asman. Welcome to Forbes on Fox. Here with us today, Rich Karlgaard, Elizabeth McDonald, Mike Ozanian, Rick Unger, and John Tamny. Rich, we just found out that Senator Harry Reid on Wednesday is going to be touting another round of green job programs. Are they working?
You know, they're really not. These green jobs are costing about $200,000 per job. You compare that to the American venture capital industry, which creates a job for about every $20,000 of investment, so 1/10 the cost in the private sector. And the government really just isn't keeping pace with what's going on in the world. So by the time it funds these companies, it's way behind. And Solyndra, by the time Solyndra got funded by the government, the Chinese price was already far beyond what Solyndra could match. The last thing we know is that about 70% of these green investments are going toward backers, financial reasons it should be shut down.
But
reasons it should be shut down.
All this creative accounting going on, trying to prove that these programs work, when in fact it doesn't look like they do work.
Wow.
It's not just cars and batteries, by the way. There's a wind program that the government has, a $4.3 billion program. The government claims it created 7,300 workers. In fact, the Wall Street Journal went in and found only 300 workers. That's $14 million per job.
Yeah, on a cost basis, it's really hurting business, David, and really hurting our recovery. On a cost per kilowatt hour, these green programs are much less efficient than traditional sources of energy. For instance, solar power is 35 cents per kilowatt hour. Oil, natural gas, coal, all below a nickel. So it's a real detriment to our economy, all these green programs right now.
Well, we're talking about with this green jobs disaster. TerraGen, Bill, is part of this big consortium that got billions of dollars from the federal government, about $2.4 billion in all these government subsidies and supports. TerraGen has created from $468 million in grants, 50 permanent jobs. That's $9 million per job.
Right.
All right, you're looking live at the president. He is speaking in Boulder City, Nevada. The president is kicking off his energy policy tour over at Copper Mountain Solar One, but not without a little bit of controversy. You see, this plant received roughly $50 million in tax credits, and it currently employs all of 10 people full-time.
During certain parts of the year, west, you got a lot of snow melt, sending tons of water down the rivers through the lots of dams on the Columbia River and what have you. At the very same time, the wind is howling in the Columbia River Gorge, so the wind farms are cranking out maximum energy. As it turns out, too much energy for the demand. So last year, the federal agency that manages the power grid shut down the windmills for 38 days. Now, to compensate the wind power generators for their losses, the Bonneville Power Administration is saying that they will pay them up to $50 million a year, a fee that will eventually be paid by ratepayers.
The solution to too much government is not more government. We already require utilities to buy renewable energy. We require the taxpayers to subsidize the production of renewable energy. And now we want ratepayers to pay the renewable energy companies when they lose money.
And a new report shows that Minnesota residents ended up paying $70 million for natural wind energy that they didn't even use. The state's wind farms subsidized by green energy mandates. The problem? Well, there wasn't much of a demand, mostly because other forms of energy were cheaper.
No. In fact, in 1896, we had something called the Roberts electric car. Guess what miles it got per charge? 40 miles to the charge 115 years ago, exactly the same as the Chevy Volt advertises. In 115 years, they've improved 0 miles. That is something to think about when people talk about the new technology of electric cars.
Do you think if they didn't have to plug this puppy in, it wouldn't encounter all the problems it has? That if it was a standard hybrid, it might enjoy more attention?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, when you plug these in, what they do to the power grid, the amount of energy it uses, there's studies that said if we have increased, and Obama wants 1 million electric cars on the road by 2015, what that would do to the power grid, especially off-peak overnight, is going to be amazing. And people have said these are as dirty as diesel power because of their reliance on coal-fired power plants. Half of our electricity comes from coal. These are coal cars at their heart. So the whole technology is just very questionable. Studies show it takes up to 8 years to recoup the expense of an electric car. This is before you're even talking about fire safety issues.